I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social Security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hey everybody, welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. I am Ken Reed, as always, your TV Guidance Counselor. And this is the show where each and every week since February 14th, 2014, I've welcomed an interesting person to the show to talk about classic television using a TV Guide magazine from my personal collection as the inspiration for our conversation. Last week had a fun TV Guide list episode talking about Johnny Carson. This week we're back to the format. Next week is two. I can at least go those two. I could tell you are going to be TV Guides, and then after that your guess is as good as mine. But this week my guest is Andrew Price, and Andrew has an amazing YouTube channel. Also has a podcast as well. I discovered him from the Treehouse Detective YouTube channel. Lots of fun shorts, really good deep dive stuff. He also has another YouTube channel which has the aforementioned Andrew WK episode, a deep dive that we discuss here. But if you like my show, you will like Andrew's show. Very fun, very funny, informative, well-researched. I think that's always a key. A little side note, I hate nothing more than podcasts or video essays where people are simply regurgitating Wikipedia entries. Sometimes they're flat out reading them, but also sometimes it's just like, I read the Wikipedia entry and now I'm going to say it back to you. Like, I like to have some personal anecdotes in there, do a little primary source research, that kind of thing. Andrew definitely does that, but hey, that's just my soapbox. If people are wildly successful far more than I am. And don't do things I like. But Andrew does do things I like. So anyway, I'm ranting. It's, what are we, week 2, week 3? Here in January, I'm already ranting. Also, reminder, in February, we'll be doing the 2016 year in review. So if there are episodes from that year you have questions about or anything from that year, let me know. I will answer them in that episode. You can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com on the social media, or go to our Patreon, patreon.com/tvguidancecounselor. Little as $1 a month is a huge help. If you have $5 or more a month, you would get the PDF of this week's TV guides. So you could follow along, play along with the show. But if you don't have any money, that's fine either. The world is on fire and it's tough out there. So I hope you're doing well. Anyway, on to this. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Andrew Price.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite, Andrew, how are you, sir?
Doing all right. Thank you for having me on. Very excited. It was super fun to look through this TV guide. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little angry at you because I've never, as you can see from my background,
yes,
I'm maybe a little bit on the obsessive side of collecting old junk. I've never collected TV guides, but I had a lot of fun looking through this TV guide. And then I was at this vintage store by my house. It's called Blast from the Past. It's mostly toys.
I've done comedy shows there.
Oh yeah. They do stand up. They do stand up at Blast from the Past. A couple of my friends have done stand up there as well. But they mostly toys, but they have a section with comics and some books and stuff like that, and they have a whole section of TV guides. And I was in there the other day, and I was looking at them, and I was like, they're only like $3 a piece. And I was on the verge of like buying. Honestly, there are things that if I didn't have a wife, they would be here. Like if I didn't have a wife, those TV guides would be here in this garage right now. She's the only one keeping me back from the precipice.
This is the deal, like I presume you probably also have with your wife, where it's like a joke. Everything in this room looks like this, and the rest of the house looks like an adult lives there.
Yeah, 100%. And this isn't even. This is my garage. So it's just the whole house looks like an adult lives there.
Yeah, funny backstory about Blast from the Past's TV guide collection. So, and this will be interesting for the listeners of the show as well. Back when I used to do the show in person, I would spend like 2 months a year in LA. I'd rent a place in Burbank, right by Blast from the Past, or in Glendale. I used to rent a place called Riverside that was Bette Midler's old ranch that was right near Disney.
Nice.
I'd set up a second bedroom as like a studio, but I was like, man, getting all these TV guides out with me, because people used to physically look through them, will be a pain in the ass. So I figured out it was way easier to just buy lots of TV guides on eBay and have them shipped to a friend's house out there, and I'd just go pick them up when I got them from the airport. So I had like hundreds of TV guides shipped to me in California. And then at the end of my trip, I was like, what am I going to do with these? Brought them to Blast from the Past.
Oh my God. I cannot believe that was like my little anecdote that I had locked and loaded, and it was just actually like the cinematic universe of this show.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. I was like, yeah, I got my little icebreaker story to come in with. I cannot believe that. That's so insane. Because they have a whole section there, and it's kind of odd now that you mention it. It's odd that they have a bunch of TV guides there, because it's really unlike the rest of their inventory.
Yeah, they're in like a little tray at the front of the store. They were the last time I was there.
Yeah. If I had bought those, man, I would be like directly like. I think I'd be like partial owner of this podcast. Yeah, I think so. I think that would like legally make me like a 51% share owner.
Yeah, you'd get the shares in the mail. And if this provenance makes it more appealing, if you go back and look at my guest lists, like pre-2020, any of them filmed in California, it's highly likely that celebrity has touched those TV guides that are flying from the past when they flip through them. So
I definitely should have bought these, and then started my own business flipping them on eBay and being like, this TV guide was touched by Paul Scheer or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of former guests of the show, like the reason that I sort of discovered your podcast and the YouTube channel specifically was you did a video about the sort of the Andrew WK conspiracy that I completely had never heard of. That people were like, it's five guys. It's not a real guy. There's like this whole insane conspiracy, which I'll link people to watch your video to get the to get the whole story. But I'd had Andrew on my show like 10 years ago.
Oh, really? Yeah, I did. I definitely did some research on your show. I listened to a couple of episodes, just kind of like looked back through the catalog. I just kind of, what's the pedigree here? Who am I being compared to?
Sure.
What caliber of celebrity am I now at, now that I've been on this show? But I didn't see Andrew WK though. I would have definitely listened to that one, and I will now, in fact, go listen to it, because I am like, to you and the listener, I cannot stress this enough. I am obsessed with Andrew WK, and I don't mean his music. I like his music. I listened to I Get Wet when I was a teenager. I liked the album. I've liked some of his later stuff. Some of it not as much, some of it a lot more. I'm obsessed with him as a person. Like more than you could even imagine that a person could be obsessed with another person.
He's such a weird dude. So I opened for him doing stand-up.
He did. He had stand-ups open for him a lot, and
so that's when I had
poets and spoken word shows and things like that.
So it was in person. We talked about it after, but you'll find it very fascinating. He seemed weird dude, obviously, but didn't seem seemed very genuine in a strange way. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, just as a short pitch for what you're talking about, there was a conspiracy theory that Andrew WK was played by multiple different actors, and that he was like not a real guy, but he was like a creation of a corporation, and he was run like a brand, and he had a bunch of different actors playing him in these different forms. And the video is sort of an exploration of that, and it basically, I mean, this isn't a spoiler. This is just kind of the point of the video, but the thesis of the video and the thesis of the research is that none of that's true. He wasn't played by multiple different actors and all that stuff. He is a performance artist his entire career has been at this point, 25-year performance art experiment and a social experiment and a satire of the music industry. And all of those conspiracy theories about him being played by multiple different people and all that stuff was actually stuff that he created and like put out into the world as part of this performance art. And it's just sort of like a deep dive exploration of that. Originally, my podcast had done an episode about him back in 2020. It was one of our first big hit episodes. And Andrew WK eventually ended up listening to the episode, and he like kind of incorporated us into his story, and kind of like we became like bad guys in his story, and he was like tweeting about us and saying that we were like liars and all this stuff like that. And then so the video on our YouTube channel is sort of like the story of him and also that part of it, of like how we became incorporated into the story and like everything that's happened since that podcast episode came out in 2020.
Yeah, it's like an Andy Kaufman kayfabe kind of thing he's got.
Yeah,
going
exactly.
On, which is fascinating. And actually, I had Melanie Chardoff on in the early days, and hearing her experiences with Andy Kaufman, because she knew him in New York. They started at the Improv together, and then knew him in the Fridays days because they were both on Fridays. Is fascinating. Like her assessment of him was very interesting. But yeah, so Andrew WK.
Yeah, it's probably not surprising considering everything I just said, but I also love Andy Kaufman. I'm kind of obsessed with him as well.
As you should be. Yeah, she said, and feel free to listen to that episode as well because she's fascinating, but she was like, he was just this nice Jewish guy from Long Island. And then in the Fridays days, she's like, something broke in him.
Yeah.
Like he basically went nuts. And she was like, when they first both moved out to LA, he used to go with her. She used to run a lot, and she would run around the track at some high school or whatever. And he would go with her and like sit with her and like hang out with her because they knew each other from there. But then he just went nuts. Like he went completely insane. And I was like, yeah, sounds right. That sounds about right.
Yeah, you can always reinvent yourself, and sometimes you can reinvent yourself from a nice Jewish boy from Long Island to just one of the greatest kayfabe performance artists of our time. I aspire to that.
Well, we should all do that. Yes. Are you even a real guy? I think. Although now I feel like it'd be so much harder to pull that off in an impressive way because of AI and all that stuff. People would just be like, yeah, whatever, used AI, big deal. You know what I mean? Like the commitment to a bit.
That's the thing. That's the biggest thing about AI. It's like, you know, when that Sora video app thing came out, like I looked around on it a little bit. And the thing about looking on that is like you scroll through and you're like, you see a video and you're like, oh, it's like the Pope, you know, being stopped by the cops or whatever. This is kind of funny. And then you realize like, oh, but it didn't happen though. This is like nobody like went through the work of like building this Pope mobile and filming this thing and then you're just like, oh well, yeah, I don't give a fuck about this. I don't care.
Right.
It's like the flattening of creativity. It's like it just makes everything like less valuable by definition.
Yeah, where you're like, I don't like the final product, but I appreciate the guy's talent. Like there isn't that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the crazy thing. I recently heard about this. It's a total side note, but there's a scam going around you may or may not have heard of. So North Korea is a sanctioned country. Like dollars are not allowed to go to North Korea.
Yeah.
But they need money coming into the country. So they come up with a lot of scams to get money into the country. So one of the things they do is they get North Koreans hired at companies in IT as fake people. So they'll have a job interview, like a Zoom job interview with a fake, like I'm a white guy from Wisconsin, and they'll have fake, resume and references and all this stuff, and they'll get hired by a company, and then they'll get paid in dollars that they'll then funnel into North Korea, and they'll do the job. Like they'll actually be doing the job, but it's like you couldn't get hired as a North Korean. So it's so weird.
Well, here's the thing, Ken. I got some bad news for you. Turns off AI filter.
My God, it's Kim Jong-il himself. I'm somewhat honored. So Andrew.
Yeah, he does the work. He gets in the trenches.
He really does. And he doesn't use the voice amplify, like the AI voice. Like he'll do that work himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not AI. This is a full piece of method acting.
Which Michael Jackson used to do. He used to get makeup artists to like make him look like an old white guy so he could go do laundry and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
nuts. But Andrew WK, when I was doing that show with him, he did two of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And one was he came out and he was playing the keyboards and he said the quote, "I'm going to party this keyboard into submission," which was amazing. But the second thing he did was he was like, "All right, the final song, we're going to count it down New Year's Eve style." And so everyone's like all excited and they're getting ready to count down from 10. He counts down from 100.
Yeah, I've seen the countdowns. I've seen I think he does it at Warped Tour, and he counts down from 100, and it goes in. He's going into party hard, basically. Like that's the big closer.
Yep. And then he goes, "I've made you candies," and he brought out Tupperware with like chocolate turtles he had made for the audience.
Yeah, Andrew WK is the only stranger that I would eat homemade candy from.
Yeah, I'd get in a van with him for that. But speaking of strangers and strange guys, this is not a transition at all and makes no sense, but that's how I'm going to get into this TV guide. The issue here you ended up picking, it's got Frasier on the cover, where September 24th to the 30th, what are we, 97? Is that the year? Forget the year now. And it's the
I think it was
Frasier
94.
Guys. 94.
I think 94.
94. We got the dog, Eddie, who's my favorite part of Frasier. This is an odd photo. So you get like John Mahoney, David Hyde Pierce, and Kelsey Grammer. They've dressed them all in the same shirt and tie. And this is not the case, but it looks like they're in one shirt.
Yeah. It looks like they're doing the like three-headed doctor improv game.
Yeah. And I'm like, I guess that's what they wanted. And the dog obviously looking at a trainer, which is, I love, because now they just switch the dog's eyes to look in the camera with the rest of the people.
Yeah. Nowadays they would use some of that patented AI to get his eye line right.
Post fall preview issue, which was the previous issue. So this is like, we're into the fall season, 94. Did you pick this one because you're a big Frasier guy?
Yeah, I went through. I told you about this a little bit in email, but this was like such a hard decision for me. I did not expect it to be a hard decision, but I was just like, God damn, which one of these do I choose? This is like my kryptonite, is having to choose from this like breadth of a list of possibilities that covers so many different like interests and things that I like. And I basically just I put the limitation on myself. I am only going to choose this based on the cover and nothing else, because if it was anything to do with like anything in the book, I would have died. You would never have heard from me again. I would have died.
You would not be the first.
Yeah, so I made the limitation that I would only choose based on the cover, and I chose this one because I love Frasier. It's one of my favorite shows. I definitely think as we get into this, it's going to be very like sitcom heavy, because I'm definitely like an 80s and 90s sitcom guy. I chose it because it was a goofy photo and I love Frasier, and also this era of Frasier is like the best part of the show. The like medium reverse mullet thing he had going on. Like there was the early one when he had the longer hair, and then the later seasons when he cuts it short. This was the golden era.
Yeah, this is what I've heard referred to in the context of Hulk Hogan as a skullet.
Yeah, skullet. Yeah, that's yeah. This was the medium length skullet was the golden age of Frasier for sure.
Skullet and moldy. So this is an interesting issue of TV Guide as well for a number of reasons. Like as soon as I went into this issue, there's a contest for the 10th anniversary of Murder, She Wrote. So 1994, Murder, She Wrote had only been on for 10 years, which seems insane. That's 10 years. But it was a mystery show. You would solve, there were clues hidden in this issue, and you could win a trip to, I think it's Universal Studios Hollywood, and meet Jessica Fletcher.
You have no idea how excited I was when I saw that, because like I said, I did not pick this based on any of the interior content. I didn't even look inside. I picked it just based on the cover. And like I said, I'm a sitcom guy. I love Frasier. That's why I chose this. But one of my top 5 favorite shows of all time is Murder, She Wrote.
Nice.
I am obsessed with the show, and I got so excited whenever I opened this up and flipped through it and saw this Murder, She Wrote contest. I was like, this is proof that my method was the right method, because through the kismet of the universe, I picked like the perfect issue, because it opens up with a Murder, She Wrote contest, and I love Jessica Fletcher so much. I love Angela Lansbury.
My friend Sarah
R.I.P.
was Angela Lansbury's personal assistant for a number of years.
Oh my God!
Stories.
Luckiest person on earth.
Andrew invented a time machine. He just went back, and all he did was enter a Murder, She Wrote contest. It's weird.
That's what I would do. I make a beeline. It's like, you know what? I think Hitler. I think he was necessary for
someone else will take care of it if it
timeline.
needs
Yeah,
to be
somebody else will do that. I'm entering this contest, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe the money that I win from the contest, maybe I'll use it to invent a second time machine and then go kill Hitler. But like, this is the first go around.
Yeah, it's a self-killing time machine that'll do that on its own.
Yeah, only one-time use.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I was going into it. I was like, I'm going back. I know I can't get back to the present, but it's worth it.
I'll just live those extra years knowing.
Sam Beckett never leaped home. He just went and joined this Murder, She Wrote sweepstakes and then disappeared into the ether.
Most ironic would be if he did that and then didn't win the contest. Then there's a thing called Ask TV Guide in here, which they only did for a little while, but I always like to bring it up because to set in the context for people younger than us, 1994, there was no Google, there's no IMDb. So you have a burning TV pop culture question that's bothering you so much, you physically write a letter and mail it to TV Guide, and every week you open it up and hope they answered your question. So these questions have that amount of weight for whoever asked them. And looking at the questions in that context is hilarious, because the first one here is, I know soap operas are popular everywhere. Do other countries even see ours? By a guy in Miami. That's the question he needed answered.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you kidding? They love our soaps. And the other one's about Branscombe Richmond from Renegade, who I forgot his character was named Bobby Six Killer.
Yep. Little. It doesn't hold up in the cold light of day in 2025, but
No.
at the time I was watching the hell out of Renegade. I think that was a show that my stepdad liked to watch, and that's why I watched it. But yeah,
That's
Renegade.
a stepdad show. That show is like designed for like if a stepdad puts his satellite dish up, which all stepdads had.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that would pop on. Lorenzo Lamas on a motorcycle. They're like, yeah, come on.
Yeah, there was some shows from the late 80s and 90s that I watched them, but thinking back, I'm just like, why the hell was I watching that show? It's like Renegade, Silk Stockings.
I was gonna say Silk Stockings.
Why was I watching those shows?
Oh,
I don't remember. I don't remember why those were happening in front of my eyes.
Well, they were USA Network, so they would often be they would be on after Cartoon Express. So
yeah. I saw a lot of
Silk
Cartoon
Stockings.
Express listings on this, and I wanted to give a shout out to those. They're pre 8 p.m. but.
And my favorite thing about Silk Stockings and The Hitchhiker was those were Silk Stockings was a CBS show, and The Hitchhiker was on HBO. So the HBO show had like boobs and like swearing, and the first season of Silk Stockings was an effort by CBS to try and have like more sexy adult content on at night. Mm-hmm. And they had this whole campaign called Crime Time After Prime Time. It was like 10 o'clock. And their whole campaign went, it's too hot to sleep. And it was like Silk Stockings, Forever Night, which was the vampire cop show, and Midnight Caller. And it was a huge bomb. So those shows got canceled, and USA Network was like, hey, we'll buy the rights to that show and make new episodes. So we'll make new episodes of that and of The Hitchhiker, both of which are bizarre because they're like, oh, that show people watch because there are boobs on it? We'd like to make those without boobs. This mediocre show. And Silk Stockings, that like somewhat sexy detective show with a big network budget, we'd like to make it less sexy with no money. Can we do those? And they're like, yeah, go for it. Huge hits.
Yeah, it's so funny because I hate to sound like an old head or like one of those like, old man yelling at clouds type people of like kids these days. But I made a video recently that went pretty viral on TikTok, and it was about how the co-creator of the co-creator of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Andy Merrill. He was sort of like screwed out of getting any kind of like credit or royalties for basically having co-created Adult Swim. Like Mike Lazo was elevated to being like the president of programming at Cartoon Network, and he created Adult Swim, and his production company ran it. But there was also like this second guy that was his like partner, Andy Merrill. He was the voice of Brack in Space Ghost Coast to Coast in the Brack show, but he like wasn't given the same elevation, and he just kind of like remained as a voice actor at the company, and he was never given any ownership of anything. And there was a big thing where he was laid off from the company, and he was driving for Amazon for a while. And I made a video about that, and in the video I just mentioned like, you know, we all grew up watching Adult Swim or whatever, which I just said flippantly. And I got so many comments. I got like hundreds and hundreds of comments being like, grew up watching Adult Swim, that wasn't for kids. And it was like such a culture shock to me that they were like, it was the show, the thing was for adults. Kids weren't supposed to watch it. And I was like, when I was a kid, I was watching Silk Stockings. I was watching USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear and her cleavage. Yep. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're telling me that when you were a kid, you were like, oh, this is for adults. I can't watch this.
Zoomers,
like, what are you talking about?
They follow rules. I remember I've never drank in my whole life. I was like a punk rock kid, hated everyone from high school, but I recognize the fact that kids, like, they used to go in the woods and drink, right? That was like the big thing in my suburb. So the cops would come and then the kids would all run. That's what happens, right? It's relevant because I bring this up because I was driving home one night through my town, and I see by the side of the road of the woods, there's a cop standing there, and there's about 20 kids all just sitting on this like log, because the cop clearly came over and said, like, all of you come over here, you know, no drinking in the woods. And I was like, these kids listen to him? Like, they didn't just, like, maybe one kid would get cut, right? But like, I was like, they're just following rules. Like,
yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, you're telling me that when as a kid, as a teenager, whenever you saw something where it was like, this is for 18 plus, you were like, well, better turn it off. Like, what are you talking about?
Break the rule.
That isn't even the craziest shit I was watching whenever I was 14 years old.
No. Oh, same. Yeah, it's
we were sitting there trying to magic eye poem the Spice Channel and trying to like visually like connect the dots and shit. Like
I built black boxes.
Yeah, oh yeah, or that.
I've told the story of the show before, but because I'm a dick, I built black boxes, but I put a parental control code on certain channels, and my dad would have to come to me and ask for the code. And I would be like, "What are you watching?"
You were the king.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, I just want to check." I'm like, "What are you watching?" And the worst time was he goes, "Foxy Boxing," and I was like, "Here's the code." It's like, I've humiliated you enough.
An unspoken, you know,
power dynamic.
You had an unspoken power dynamic.
And then there's an article in here about Tracy Gold, who I've had on the show.
Yeah, I was
me.
gonna. Oh, really?
Yeah.
She hated. Well, I've from what I've read about her, she's like a little bit like a difficult person to like talk to, but. Do tell.
So I used to get hired a lot to run panels and Q&As at conventions. And I did a Growing Pains reunion one. And it was supposed to be more people, but it ended up being her and Jeremy Miller, who was a sweetheart, and Julie McCullough, who I've had on the show before and does stand up and is also very nice, and Tracy. And I always and I'm a huge Growing Pains fan, by the way.
No Kirk Cameron, of course.
No Kirk Cameron. He was busy saving Christmas. I'm a huge Growing Pains fan. And like Tim O'Donnell, who was a buddy of mine, he show ran that. He created Just the 10 of Us. I have the world's largest Just the 10 of Us memorabilia collection, confirmed. Had many of the cast members on my show. So, you know, I'm a true fan of the show. And I was trying to bring up, I was just trying to like set the tone for a thing. And I was like, you know, so you guys, it's a reunion show. And, you know, Jeremy here, he's the only one who was in the original pilot and then in all the other episodes. And, you know, Julie came in later and she's like, what? Cause she was recast. She's not in the first episode. She came in later. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, they figured you were a better fit and they had you come in and do the Carol part. And she's like, I'm an original cast member. And she was so mad at me, like from go. And I was like, oh man, I've made an error in judgment with setting the tone here.
I've stepped in it.
Yeah.
Like
and,
I know what you were trying to do, but I could also see why somebody would be like ruffled by being referred to as not an original cast member.
Yeah. So it was a mistake in judgment, but I never really quite won her back over after that. But it was an interesting chat that came up.
You were fighting for your life.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Growing Pains as well. I love Growing Pains. So what is the best version of the theme song? Is it the season 1 version with BJ Thomas and I don't know what the female singer is? The like season 2 on version, which was like I think just a remake of the song.
Yes.
Or
the version.
Yeah, or the season 7?
Yeah,
I forget which season 7.
Seasons.
Yeah, the season 7 a cappella version of the song.
Yeah, I'm going mid. So the first one's decent,
Yeah.
but the second one's better. It's got a little more oomph. It's not as difficult a decision and debate over what was the best Spencer for Hire theme song of the 3 seasons, written by the same guy. I'm going version 2. What's yours?
Yeah, version 2 for sure. I do love the a cappella version, but yeah, version 2.
It's a nice
all the way.
change, but neither is as good as the Just the 10 of Us theme.
Yeah,
which is the best. But yeah, I kind of, once season 4 of Growing Pains happened, it started to go a little downhill. That's when Kirk Cameron got super. I did coke and now I'm a born again Christian. A lot of the best writers left and went to Just the 10 of Us, which got screwed over. But season 2 and 3 of Growing Pains, perfection. The 2-part Dance Fever episode, like, come on. One of the funniest lines I've ever heard on television is from the cocaine episode. In the coda of the episode, Mike comes home and Dr. Seaver goes, Mike, Boner and Eddie just called and they said they didn't go to the bathroom and they don't want to. He's like, I don't want to know. Like, it's really funny. It's a very funny line. Yeah, the whole Sandy thing, man. So she had left the show because she had battled anorexia, and this is
I was gonna say this issue starts off in a really dark note. I chose like the grimmest issue of this because the first after the Murder She Wrote sweepstakes, it gets into this little feature story about Tracy Gold that starts off. I called it my Achilles heel, says Tracy Gold, referring to her severe eating disorder. That's how this issue starts. And then directly after that is a small feature story about Ricardo Montalban. And the first part of this little feature story is, I'm doing all right, I guess, says Ricardo Montalban, 73, currently hobbling on 2 canes. I'm discouraged. Sometimes I just feel like staying in bed and never getting up.
Yeah.
It's like, this shit is depressing.
It's hard-hitting journalism, but the best part of those is in between those two, there's a sidebar piece of Luther Vandross, What I Watch.
Oh, yeah. And Luther Vandross, and he's just like, he's just talking about, I'm so at home with the TV on and the remote in my hand. Just Luther Vandross talking about what a couch potato he is. He loves The Price is Right and NYPD Blue.
Yeah, which I would buy. I think it's still there. I think it's in Pasadena. There's a Ricardo Montalban theater, or there was forever. And for years after he died, he had recorded like the intro for like, welcome to the Ricardo Montalban Theater. Please refrain from smoke, like all that stuff. And it was, people were like, it's so bizarre because they still use it and he's been dead for like 20 years.
I mean, I would never stop using it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish my house just had Ricardo Montalban, like in Back to the Future 2, how, there's that voice that just like, is like, the Marty McFly is home or whatever. But it was Ricardo Montalban.
There's a good use of it. We should all have a Ricardo Montalban personal electronic assistant. I think we'd all.
Yeah, but it's not like whatever celebrity you want. It's
just Ricardo Montalban. Yeah, you can pick what era of Ricardo Montalban you want, but that's as far as it goes.
But just Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, it's just him. You can't have tattoo.
You want Charles Nelson Riley? Fuck you, Ricardo Montalban.
Have you seen his one-man show, The Life of Riley?
I have not. No.
You have to watch it. It's so good. It's insane. There was, in fact, this is a thing that you would have covered on the like the kind of thing you would have covered on the podcast. There was a circus fire in Connecticut in like the 40s or 30s that was like one of the biggest disasters in American history. Like this circus tent went up, all these people burned to death with the circus performers. As a kid, Charles Nelson Riley was in the tent, and him and his friends survived, and he like witnessed this thing, and it was like this formative, like insane moment. And he talks about it in the show, but in like a really funny way.
I'm gonna watch that for sure.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then my second favorite thing from the whole show, it's like an hour and a half show, it's great, is he was good buddies with Burt Reynolds. And Burt Reynolds had a newspaper clipping service that would, find things about Burt Reynolds and send them to him. But what he also had them was anytime anyone wrote into a TV Guide or a newspaper or anything with the question, is Charles Nelson Riley still alive? Which apparently happened often. He would get a copy of that newspaper, have it blown up and framed with that question, and mail it to Charles Nelson Riley every time. He's like, I have like 25 of these.
That's the level of pettiness that I aspire to. That's what I would do.
Yes,
with all the money in the world, that's what I would do.
We all want to be on Burt Reynolds' shit list, and yeah. Oh, and I had Mark Summers on from Double Dare, and he got in a fight with Burt Reynolds.
Oh yeah, no, you think I haven't watched that clip like possibly 100 times?
Yeah. And we talked about it when I had him on.
Burt Reynolds and Mark Summers having a fight that culminates into a pie throwing contest.
That's what your wife said. It's all like you can't. Burt Reynolds is too good. Yeah,
it's the funniest shit that I think I've ever seen, and also just like just a monument to the lost era of television that is late night TV, and the fact that like something like that would never happen on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon or any of these shows.
There's
never be allowed to happen on those shows.
Yeah, you can't. It's all like so regimented, and you can't. Yeah, there's no way that would happen. You wouldn't. I mean, we don't have who's our modern Burt Reynolds? He doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and obviously, this figure is not kosher anymore. But there's also a clip from Johnny Carson. Have you seen the clip of from Johnny Carson? Which, by the way, can you see my full screen? I don't know, because I can only see like a little square window of myself. Can you see like? So
I see a puppet. Yep.
So these right here, these theater seats.
Yeah. These
are from the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson theater.
Oh, the Burbank Theater.
Yeah, the Burbank Theater. These are from they recently, which actually it's a sad story, but they recently tore it down. It's been sitting up all these years. It was purchased by a company, and they kept it, and it was just kept the same as it always was. It wasn't touched. And then they recently sold it, and it was demolished and replaced with a sound studio. But somebody got all of the seats out of it, and I bought them.
That's amazing.
And I have a certificate of authenticity over there.
That's amazing.
But there's Bill Cosby was on the Tonight Show, and it was like, I think it was whenever the Cosby Show ended. And he goes on and he does stand up, and he's like doing some of his classic bits from the 70s, but and like one particular bit from the 60s that was like his most famous bit, but he just like clearly does not want to do them, and he just kind of like quits mid bit and is just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this shit. And then he just goes and sits down next to Johnny without finishing his thing, and then he just sits there and like argues with him, and like has like a public crash out for like 20 straight minutes. And it's like, it's one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever watched.
But compelling television.
Yeah, very compelling.
Yeah, I mean, that was the era when you had Bobcat setting fire to, it's just like, yeah, we'll never have that again. Late night shows are completely vestigial wastes of time now, in my opinion. And I've mentioned this before. I mentioned this last week on the show, because celebrities were not accessible in the days of the height of late night. You never saw them being themselves, or, a version of themselves, or an actor not playing a part or something like that. So the novelty of seeing them talking like a person on a show was enough,
And now they're all influencers, so we see their intimate lives every single day.
I don't want to see them
and then
with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, and then late night shows are just press press tours,
Yeah,
essentially.
it's a waste of everyone's time. So then before we get to the listings here, there's an article that the cover story is about, and it's like, here's all the stuff you're going to see this season. But it has the weirdest headline, especially the fact that they introduced a kid, like a child on Blossom, which is always the death knell of most TV shows. We all know the Chrissy years, speaking of growing pains. I don't remember this. It was a Courtney Chase plays the stepsister on Blossom. But the headline says, sex, babies, and sea hunks.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I was like, "What the hell?" Like it says sex. I'm trying to find it here. What page is this?
It's on page 22 of the PDF.
22, yeah. So yeah, it's this cover story, and it says sex, babies, and sea hunks, and then it's just like a picture of the little girl,
Like a 3-year-old.
and I was like, this what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
this is weird as hell.
Some editor should have been like, guys, why don't we do the layout a little bit different on this one here?
Let's rethink this, where you go to this page and there's just a large picture of a 3-year-old girl doing a curtsy, and then it just says sex, babies, and sea hunks.
Yeah. Nope, don't want to see that. This also mentions, like, so some of these shows are kind of rejiggered, and one of the greatest losses is the first season of the John Larroquette Show is amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
Shot on film.
I almost put that on my list a few times, but it was beat out by other things.
We'll get to it in a moment, but like the first season is shot on film, really dark, dramedy. He's an alcoholic who's ruined his life, so he has to get a job as the night manager of a bus station. There's like sex workers and hustler. Like it's very gritty and good. Season 2, they made him put a laugh track in. It's shot on video now. He works in the daytime. They got rid of like everything interesting. And it's such a weird, perfect illustration of how a network can ruin a concept. Then I was surprised there's a whole article in here about Christopher Lee, which I was shocked by. We're not at Halloween. They're talking about like the legends of horror, and it's got this like quarter-page photo of Christopher Lee. And I was like, wow, all right, TV Guide, good job. Christopher Lee's in here. Let's see. All right. Oh, and then I have to point them out because anytime they have a doll for sale in here, it's always horrible.
Oh, yeah, this creepy ass Coca-Cola legacy doll thing. It's out of a horror movie.
It's a child like who is using a Coca-Cola carton as like a scooter, and I think he's supposed to be selling Coca-Cola, and they call it an heirloom doll.
Yeah,
it's
Franklin heirloom dolls,
it's
it's just the scariest shit you've ever seen.
dead-eyed. He's $195.
Which is like what, $600 in
Something like
today's
that.
money?
And it's just dead-eyed, crazy looking. I would look this up, but in the interest of time, I will. But I usually end up looking them up on eBay to see what they're going for now. The average is about $9 for these things usually. It's $195. Man, that's bad. I've seen creepier ones, but not this one. Then there's an article in here that I found fascinating because I'm a huge My So-Called Life fan, and this is 94, and My So-Called Life. And people probably know this, but it was like critically acclaimed, didn't do great in the ratings, but every critic loved it. But they have an article in here that's a column by Harry Stein, and it says dissenting view, why I've given up on My So-Called Life, about why he doesn't think this is a good show. And it's fascinating. It's well written, but it's just, I'd never heard this viewpoint at the time.
Yeah, I've listening to a couple of your other episodes, which, like, admittedly, like I'm not super familiar with TV Guide as like an actual product. Like I'm aware of it as a part of culture, but I never like read TV Guide when I was younger. And actually, a big part of going through this was like, man, I should have been reading TV Guide.
Great articles.
This would have helped me like plan out my viewing when I was younger so much more thoroughly. But in listening to some of your other episodes, I noticed that there's a lot of discussion about how, for what I think many people view as this like really like soft-spoken magazine for older people, similar to Reader's Digest, where it's like, this is what your mom and maybe even your grandma would use to sit and like plan their viewing for the night.
Middle of the road and safe.
Yeah. But you've talked a lot about on a few episodes of your show about the fact that despite that, there's actually some really sharp editorial in this, and pointed criticism of television shows in the way that you wouldn't see in any kind of modern mainstream critical media. You have sort of like clickbait where it's just, the Vice style, like, actually Game of Thrones always sucked, like that kind of thing.
Best show ever.
Or
Worst show ever. Yeah.
Or you have just like naked promotional content that is toothless, entirely toothless.
I don't want to lose screeners, so I'm not going to be actually critical.
But you talked in a few episodes that I listened to about the fact that TV Guide actually just was not afraid to. They didn't pull punches, and they were not afraid to go all the way with their criticism. So yeah, I mean, as much as you're saying like, oh yeah, I loved My So-Called Life, and this article is very strange, and how much he goes after the show. It's also just really cool that like that we lived in a time where there wasn't these just overarching cultural or corporate interests that were just like preventing or causing sort of like the shellacking of culture, and everything is toothless. Nothing has a viewpoint. Everything is just all in service of like promoting content.
Yeah, and TV Guide was like,
or you just have like shitty contrarian clickbait where this isn't actually a real perspective. You're just trying to like get people to click on your thing.
Yeah, it's just like so cynical or like overly ironic or whatever. Like this criticism, My So-Called Life, is valid and well thought out. And it's exactly what you said. TV Guide was the largest print run magazine in the world at the time. They were like, we're fucking TV Guide. What are you going to do about it? Like they weren't afraid of a network being like, oh, well, we're not going to send you screeners, and be like, great, your show's not going to get promoted. We're TV Guide. Like they could just do whatever they wanted. And it resulted in this amazing ability to have like actual good articles.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that in the 80s and the 90s. My podcast did a whole episode about Wizard magazine, which was kind of that for comics. And almost in kind of a bad way, where they sort of like had this power trip where they're like, we can make and break any writer, any artist, any print, any run of any comic.
They're a big part of
They sort of like started to view themselves as gods.
Yeah.
But they created a bubble where their indulgence of speculator culture in comics kind of like crashed the entire industry.
Yeah, and they made
but it's interesting, positive or negative, for better or worse. It's really interesting that the cultural power levers of power were sort of like reversed back then, where it wasn't the studios and the corporations, it was the editorials and the critics who sort of were able to control culture in that way. Like I said, for better or worse.
Wizard magazine. I was a huge comic guy. I had a cable access show about comic books in 1990 to 92 when I was 10 to 12, so I read Wizard a lot.
Amazing.
But there was a lot of comics. There was I wish I could remember the guy's name, but there was a column in there which a guy wrote about like indie comics and like Love and Rockets, Cerebus, like that kind of stuff. Bone, Bean World, like stuff that wasn't superhero comics. And so I got exposed to all that stuff from this guy's column. And as a result, I ended up having like, and he's not the greatest human being now, but I had like Dave Sim on my show, and like Frank Miller.
Wow.
People when I was 12 years old. But just from reading about this in Wizard, and one of the only times I ever like won anything was Wizard used to have packed in cards and like little tchotchkes, and I got a signed Will Eisner Spirit card in my bagged copy of Wizard, which I still have. But I was like, nice. It's the only time that's happened to me.
I love all that, but also my friend Dave would just like love to that, because my friend Dave, he's the co-host of my podcast Deep Cuts, which maybe I can plug at some point or whatever. But he's a comic, he's a cartoonist, he's a comic artist and writer. He has books out from Dark Horse and Top Shelf. He has a book called Everything is Tulip that's out from Dark Horse. He has a book called Mary Tyler Moorhawk, which is out from Top Shelf. Nice. It's back here somewhere. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we moved a Krang to get this.
Yeah, I had to move the Krang, as they say in the biz. I had to move the Krang.
Move that Krang.
But he had this book, Forest Hills Bootleg Society. He wrote this. This is Simon and Schuster. But anyway, he's a comic artist and writer, and he knows much more about comics than I do, first and foremost, but he's also just really tapped into the history of the industry, and he loves the Spirit and Will Eisner, and he would just love to hear about that stuff.
Well, I'll put us in touch. We'll discuss. So let's get in the listings here. I will say before 8 p.m. on the Saturday, there's a half-page ad for American Gladiators. So this is 94, so we're like, I don't know, 5 years after the height of American Gladiators. I was surprised to see it was still on. But
was Laser still there?
I don't think Laser was still there. We know Malibu got injured first season. But they're bringing back Nitro. So it goes, look out, Nitro's back. The bad boy of American Gladiators is back in action and ready for trouble. And it's this really terrible, like, paced up ad. But I'm like, oh yeah, they're that desperate. They're bringing back season 1 villains to get in this thing here. So Saturday night, what are you doing?
Saturday night. Freaked out for a second. I thought I didn't do Saturday. I mislabeled it. So here's the thing. This is a toss-up. I could go one or two ways, and I chose a way, but my first version of it, of like this might be how I plan my evening, is from 8 to 9, the first hour, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues.
Okay.
And from 9 to 10, just to round it off, I didn't feel particularly strongly about these. It was just like, in order to watch the first, Kung Fu in the first hour, I got to watch something in the second hour. So I went with Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon at 9 and Are You Afraid of the Dark at 9:30. But the saving grace of this kind of boring evening is They Live was playing. So I went with They Live for the whole block.
You can never go wrong with John Carpenter. Channel 11 WPIX's New York edition is showing John Carpenter's They Live. Here's my surprise. TV Guide only gives They Live 2 stars, which also at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, to put this in perspective for you, Crocodile Dundee 2 is on another channel. They also give that 2 stars. So in the Shaggy DA...
They Live and Crocodile Dundee 2 are at the same level.
In the Shaggy DA... the 1976 Disney movie about a guy that transforms into a dog with Tim Conway and Suzanne Plachette, they give that 3 stars.
So that's the superior film.
Yep.
Well, movie. much like most John Carpenter movies, it was sort of like a critical and even a cultural flop in its time, and only went on to be appreciated later on. Which at first as a cult classic, and then sort of like retroactively reevaluated as not a cult classic, but like an all-time classic film.
And is also, which is a whole other rabbit hole I won't totally go down, but is now one of the key movies that right-wing dudes misinterpret.
Yeah, it's
you assholes.
It's one of those the Matrix, They Live, where it's like you do not understand this.
And I love the Matrix too. I'll be like, oh, you guys are really into Alice in Wonderland? They'll be like, bro, it's Matrix. I'm like, yeah, it's not though. You're talking about your pills and stuff. I'm like, big Alice in Wonderland fans. All right, bro.
Yeah.
Kung Fu: The Legend Continues was not great. I don't know if you remember. I'm a huge martial arts guy, and I always try to watch the original series and this one, and I was just so disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I love the original Kung Fu, but when I was a kid, I did watch The Legend Continues a lot, and I was less discerning at the time. I didn't really regard there to be like a big rift of quality difference between the two shows. And in hindsight, there definitely was. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was watching Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. I think it was on the Sci-Fi Channel for me, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was USA.
It was a syndicated
I obviously
show,
watched a lot of USA.
Yeah,
and I also watched a lot of Sci-Fi Channel. I forget which channel it was on, but I was watching the show, and at the time I didn't think anything of it. But yeah, you're right. It definitely pales in comparison to the original. David
Carradine had been hitting the bottle for a couple of decades by the time The Legend Continues to come around, and it was pretty evident.
The big thing about it, the reason why I connected with it, is because I always liked that sort of like legacy father passing the baton to the son type thing. Last Crusade. I always loved that dynamic, so I gravitated towards it for that reason.
James Bond Jr., everyone's favorite cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, once again, maybe in hindsight, not so great. But I was watching some James Bond Jr. as well.
The toys were fun. They were always in the clearance bin.
Yeah.
They Live I'll always watch. I will also say the show Sisters was on at 10, which is after the Purview. But this was a show about middle-aged women who are sisters and was a drama. And at age 14, I friggin' loved it. No idea why. I love Seal Award. I used to watch this show Saturday nights at 10 o'clock before Up All Night kicked in and Drove Up Driving. But Sisters, loved it. I haven't gone back and rewatched it. I'm kind of afraid to be like, what did 14-year-old me love about Sisters?
I never watched Sisters, but aside from that, I'm fully on board with you. When I was a kid, I definitely also loved shows about middle-aged women, as we'll kind of get into, and as I mentioned before, Murder, She Wrote is one of them. But also, I really love Designing Women, which there's no pics on here of that. I don't remember the time frame of the show, but I didn't see Designing Women at all on the guide.
Yeah, it
so
had been canceled by 94.
Yeah, I figured it must have ended by this point. But I love Designing Women, and I also loved the Golden Girls. But obviously, Golden Girls had also ended by this point.
Designing Women is such a good show, and it's interesting to see. And actually, Julia Duffy is a friend, and when she was in the last 2 seasons of Designing Women, for my 40th birthday, she sent me a bunch of her Designing Women stuff. So I have a bunch of scripts and stuff from Designing Women from that season.
Oh man!
But it's such a funny show, and it's funny seeing Golden Girls get this like. Not even cult, like huge mainstream sort of audience as we've gone on, and it's been in reruns, that I feel like, yeah, Golden Girls is a solid show, but I feel like Designing Women should have that same audience. Like I'm surprised that's never been embraced by like catty gay dudes and like teenage girl, like the way that Golden Girls has.
There was a festival over here by my house in Burbank on the historic Magnolia Boulevard. Where Blast from the Past is, and there was a group of gay gentlemen who had a stand where they were selling muumuus for men, and they had several Golden Girls designs. No Designing Women designs though, and I agree with you. I liked Designing Women more than Golden Girls. I think the reason why the Golden Girls was elevated into that cultural icon status over Designing Women is, I think, because of the people in it. The sort of almost mimetic nature of Betty White and B. Arthur. The fact that they became like memes almost in this way of like Betty White carved out this identity in her older age as like an old lady who's like really raunchy.
Yeah,
and people really loved her for that. And B. Arthur would go on to the roasts, and there was all the like, I wouldn't even fuck you with B. Arthur's dick or whatever. So they became like meme people, and I think that is the majority of the reason why Golden Girls is regarded the way it is. It's a great show. I love the show, but I think that's the reason why. Whereas Designing Women, Jean Smart, Annie Potts, legendary actresses in their own right, but they never became that.
Yeah, you mentioned it's interesting because the cast of Golden Girls, by the time that show was on, this was like the third act for all those actresses. They had been TV royalty by this time. B. Arthur, this was like her fourth TV series, like they were known commodities. So I wonder if that was part of it too, that people sort of knew and loved from other things. Whereas the Designing Women cast, Dixie Carter was kind of the only one who had any sort of visibility, and that was because she played, Mr. Drummond's wife on the seasons of Different Strokes no one watched. So,
yeah.
and people unfairly hated Delta Burke. I feel like that has to be part of it too, because Delta Burke was so funny and great on that show, and she just got trashed in the media for years. And I feel like that had to have sort of sullied their reputation a little bit. But I do love the fact that everybody loves Jean Smart now, and Annie Potts, and they're in everything, and as they should be, because they're great.
Yeah, and also speaking of Frasier, Jean Smart had a very good recurring guest role on that as well. One of the better storylines in the show, honestly. There's
nothing I've ever seen her in where she wasn't amazing. How good was she in the Watchmen TV series?
Yeah, she's really good in the Watchmen.
She's so good.
We might be one of the only 3 or 4 people who watch that show, but yeah,
it's amazing.
She's
great.
I
talk about the comics again, but I'm like that Watchmen HBO series. manages to adapt The Watchmen better than anything else I've ever seen while not being an adaptation of Watchmen at all. It is more The Watchmen than that awful Zack Snyder movie where someone went, comic books, man, they like already like storyboards. Just film it that. And I'm like, no, you've missed the entire point of everything.
You're preaching to the choir. I agree with you about all those things.
Most people don't. Sunday, what are you doing?
Oh, I really quickly, I wanted to honorable mention, because you did say that if you wanted to talk about anything before or after 8 to 10, I just wanted to, I only did it for Saturday. I didn't do it for the other days for the interest of time, but I just wanted to shout out one of my favorite shows of all time, Duckman. Yes. Which came on at 10:30 a.m., I guess. Or no, 10:30 p.m. Yeah, that's what it was.
USA doing original programming with Weird Science, and Duckman was their block.
Yeah, there's 4 seasons of Duckman, and every single season of them, it's like that meme of the rendered horse, and then, every segment is like a different, sometimes like the beginning of it is like the realistic drawn horse, and then the other half of it is like the shitty little kids one. This is just full on like realistically rendered beautiful horse, all 4 seasons.
It's great. It's a show that, again, I don't know why that hasn't received like this cult audience since then, because it was like Ren and Stimpy and the Nicktoons, but for adults, and managed to be funny and adult without confusing sort of adult humor with just like, let's swear and show boobs. Like it was smart cartoon.
Yeah, it's one of the smartest and most and wittiest animated shows ever made. I mean, it's like right up there with like classic Simpsons seasons in terms of writing.
I was telling Andrew before we recorded that I kind of tore my office apart and was like moving stuff around. I did not set this up. This was literally right, and I grabbed this. It is an original.
Oh my god!
Corn-fed. What we call it, like
turnaround.
Sheet for the artists on Duckman. So this is stamped final May 15th, 95. Model pack for corn-fed turnaround. Yeah, I have this just sitting in my office.
That's almost as crazy as when I told that Blast from the Past story, and then it turned out that those were your Reader's Digest.
This was not a setup at all. That's very strange. It's like right there. I'm like, oh, there it is right there. Duckman's great. I hope someday that finds, because I don't think it's streaming. They've released them on DVD.
No, I watched it when it aired, and then I watched it pirated from some BitTorrent.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the only way you can see it. I feel like that would have a huge, like, be embraced by people. Like that would have been a prime show to have been like rerun on Adult Swim. And why that didn't get, I have no idea. But yeah, that show is great. I mean, Jason Alexander is amazing in it. Tim Curry is Dweezil Zappa is in it. Tim Curry does a bunch of different voices in it, and he's a voice acting powerhouse. Like a lot of people think of Tim Curry obviously as like, oh, he's Pennywise and Dr. Frankenfooter.
Darkness. I was blanking on his name from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Home Alone 2 and all that stuff. But like his voice acting career is like legendary. He's some of the greatest voice acting that exists from between the late 80s and the 90s, and he's a bunch of voices in this, and he's just great.
Do you think
I love that show? Do
you think there's someone out there, and this could be you, I don't know, that has a Duckman tattoo? Any character?
It's not me. I don't have any tattoos, but if I was gonna have a tattoo, I feel like Duckman would be on the short list. There's definitely somebody that has a Duckman tattoo, 100%.
Listeners, if you know someone or you are that person, let me know, because I think there's not any. I'm gonna say that I wish that there was, but I don't think there is. I really want someone to have a corn-fed pig tattoo with the little bunny bears. That
I think that there is out there somewhere in the world. Wait, you want to take a bet on this?
Take a bet. I'm saying no. You're saying yes. We'll see if we can find this person. And they can't just get one after they hear this. They have to have already had it.
Yeah, and we have scientific ways of proving that. So just don't try to fool us, because we know what we're doing,
we'll get the
and
black
we
lights
will
out.
know if you're lying.
We'll know if this is a lie. Duckman tattoos. Yes, excellent point out. Thank you for bringing up Duckman.
For Sunday, I did want to honorable mention Sequest. I didn't choose it. I didn't choose to watch it, but I wanted to honorable mention Sequest. I wouldn't say I love Sequest, but I liked Sequest. I watched Sequest. Frankly, I don't remember a whole lot about the show. I actually kind of want to go back and rewatch it. Reading this Reader's Digest, one of the things I took away from it was like I should try to go back and rewatch Sequest. But I liked the show. R.I.P. Jonathan Brandis. Yep. But what I'm going with, this was like the easiest night to choose. 8 to 9, Murder, She Wrote.
11th season opener.
Yeah. I mean, the later seasons, after season 6, they start to tread water a little bit. Like, there's how many times can you have an old mystery writer solve a murder?
There's only
like
so
they
many ways
start
to kill people.
Like, it's crazy how many seasons of this show there are. Yeah. Like Columbo has like the equivalent of like 5 seasons, I think, but they're really not seasons. Like they're TV movies.
Yeah.
And they're all made by different directors, and they have completely different approaches to the storytelling.
And he can do other crimes, so they're not all murders.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety in Columbo as a show that it doesn't start to repeat itself. It doesn't get repetitive. There are 12 seasons of Murder, She Wrote, and at a certain point, they're just like they started doing weird shit because they're just like, how the hell? What are we doing? Like, people are still watching it. We're still getting tons of ratings, but like, I don't know why. We're telling the same story over and over again.
What can we get away with?
Yeah, but so they were treading water at this point, but I would still be watching it. So yeah, Murder, She Wrote 8 to 9, and then from 9 to 10. And this all depends on: am I watching this as my age at the time, right, or am I watching this now? So 9 to 10 is the first half of Total Recall, which was on USA, I believe.
Yep.
And then I would beg my mom or my wife if I'm watching this now,
everybody.
Yeah, to stay up. Yeah, who are different people. I would beg either my mom or my wife to let me stay up to watch the last half of it from 10 to 11.
Amazing movie. Again, a movie that I'll watch at any time. I do want to mention the Murder, She Wrote episode. The murder of this episode is the 11th season opens at a zoo where a death by snake bite uncovers a virtual nest of human vipers, which is a prime illustration of what you had just discussed.
See, that's what I'm talking about. These procedural, quirky detective shows. I'm a huge fan. I love Murder, She Wrote. I love Columbo. I love Monk. I love Psych. But out of every type of show, they are the ones that are the most like, there's a finite number of stories we can tell here, and at that point, they start getting real weird with it.
I will say Bones did a good job, and Hart Hansen, friend of the show, had him on recently. Bones did a really good job of avoiding that being going for 11 seasons or something, because they started off with the murders being like crazy to begin with. Like they were like, let's just get it right out of the way, and then it's just like,
at one point there's a crossover where Stewie Griffin is in it. Like they approached it as asymmetrical warfare for sure.
The Sleepy Hollow crossover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Insane. You passed up the made-for-TV movie The Gift of Love, starring Andy Griffith and Blair Brown, which looks like the most maudlin, depressing thing I've ever seen. Got a full-page ad. It's a tragic accident claims her son's life. By donating his heart, she could save her estranged father's life and the love she thought was lost forever.
There was a time back in the day when they would just like make the most depressing made-for-TV movies of the week, and that was the whole selling point. There was no high concept. It wasn't like a Hallmark movie where it was like, a high-powered executive from New York goes back to her hometown and falls in love with a lowly farmer or whatever. There was no high concept. It was just like, here's some sad, depressing shit.
Yep.
For 90 minutes.
Do you want to feel anything? Just something to know you're alive. Yeah. They're also on Channel 9, which was a UHF channel in New York. They're showing a 1986 made-for-TV movie that I've never heard of before, but they give it 2 stars, just like They Live. and Total Recall, actually. It's called The Children of Times Square, made for TV 1986. They're a New York City gang of street urchins and runaways, led by a Fagin-like cocaine dealer. I'm like, I need to watch that right now. Sold.
Yeah. I mean,
sold in the room.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like the difference in how TV networks were marketing themselves or how they were marketing to the viewer, because now, nobody watches TV anymore. So you watch things on streaming, and they're really like I said before, they're marketing them to you based on very high concepts, and they're just like, it's Die Hard, but in a submarine or whatever. Yeah, and it's like they've adopted the movie model of marketing content to people with these really high concepts, and marketing them based on the star power as well, which was also done in the day as well. Like, speaking of Murder, She Wrote, a big part of their marketing was like, this week we have this,
guest star, yeah, Andy Griffith
legacy actor as a guest star or whatever. We have Walter Matthau this week. We have Jack Lemmon. But back in the day, I think that rather than really marketing based on these high concepts, they were just like, people are going to be sitting here. It's prime time from 8 to 10. People are going to be watching TV. How do we get them to stay on our channel?
Yeah. And as many people as possible in the widest variety of people.
And they did that, not really necessarily based on high concept of like the concept of this movie is really interesting. It was just based on like, how do we just rivet somebody for 90 minutes and just make them not be able to change the channel? And they did that by, either making it the saddest shit of all time or making it like the most over-the-top dramatic shit of all time.
Yeah.
And that's what all these movies of the week were.
Which, before we move on to Monday, and speaking of Frasier, there's a world premiere movie on NBC that night at 9 o'clock starring Kelsey Grammer. Jesus, could I get more Boston? Kelsey Grammer? He's fucking some guy at a fucking show, Grandma. Kelsey Grammer. And it's called The Innocent. It's a world premiere movie, and it stars him and Dean Stockwell. And it says the image of a murder.
Oh, Dean Stockwell. Yeah, I saw the ad, but I didn't notice the Dean Stockwell co-star.
Can one cop find the key before two killers find the boy? Do you think he's playing the killer? I'm curious who he's playing. Let's see. Oh no, he's a police detective trying to crack a shocking multiple murder case while protecting a terrified eyewitness. Oh, a 9-year-old, here we go, autistic savant. Post-Rain Man.
I gotta watch it. I didn't add that to my list. I did see the advertisement for it, but I didn't add it to my list. But I gotta watch that. It's got Kelsey Grammer. Politics aside, I love Kelsey Grammer. I love Dean Stockwell. Yep. R.I.P.
An autistic savant.
And I love a good movie about an autistic savant.
I will say I always find entertaining that footage of Kelsey Grammer falling in the hole on the stage and going, "My God, I'm quite badly injured." I'm sure you've seen that footage.
Yes, I have.
Oh my God. It's very funny. Monday, what are you doing?
On Monday, I really had there's a version of this where it's just every day it's just Murder, She Wrote, because it's on every night of the week. Yeah. So there's a version of this where I could have just said that, but it would have been boring. So I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. So for 8 to 9, I would say I just Murder, She Wrote, which is on USA, but I gotta watch from 8 to 8:30. I gotta watch The Nanny. There's this is a safe space, right?
Totally safe space. Yes.
Yeah, I gotta. Your listeners won't be aware of this, but it's actually a pretty big inside joke on my podcast. Because at one point I mentioned it, and my co-host Dave, he thought it was way funnier than I would have ever anticipated he would think it was when I told him, and now it's just a meme. But I had a huge crush on Fran Drescher when I was a kid.
Of course.
Massive crush on Fran Drescher when I was a kid. I mentioned this on my podcast, and it was apparently the funniest shit in the world to my co-host, and he made a huge deal about it. But so I gotta watch The Nanny, and then there wasn't really anything else on, so that I was interested in. So I would just watch the last half of Murder, She Wrote after that.
Fair enough.
From 8:30 to 9, just catch the end of it. It's probably a rerun anyway, so just catch the end of it.
There's a part 1 of 2 episode of Baywatch on. I'll always watch Baywatch because it's a show that every time I watch it, open mouth, not believing what I'm seeing, no matter how many times I've seen the episode of Baywatch, and I still can't believe that it existed. This is one with an earthquake in Malibu. It's just insane. Then on Murphy Brown that night, they introduce a monkey to the cast.
I did not know that, but I did choose Murphy Brown. Well, here I had an either or situation based on lack of clarity in the TV guide.
Right.
So, one of the versions is Murphy Brown from 9 to 9:30, and then in the TV guide on Nick at Night it says Bob Newhart, and I don't know if that was the Bob Newhart show or if it was Newhart. It's like the way it's written is like in the middle somewhere, so I don't know actually what show it was.
It's the Bob Newhart show. Nick Knight never aired 80s Newhart.
Really? Interesting. I don't remember that. But what I was going to say was if it was Newhart, then I would be going Murphy Brown and Newhart from 9 to 10. But if it was the Bob Newhart show, which no shade to the Bob Newhart show, I like the Bob Newhart show, but I just much preferred Newhart.
You and me are the guys. We're the two.
Yeah. But if it was the Bob Newhart show, then instead I would have watched TNG for the whole hour block. I would have caught that episode of Star Trek,
which is a new episode. It's Geordi heavy. This is the crew is a few days off, so
as we like it.
Geordi plans a diversion for himself and Data on the holodeck where they play Holmes and Watson. That sounds terrible.
I remember that episode, and it's a bit of a filler episode.
But Newhart is
maybe I'd go Murphy Brown and Bob Newhart show. I'm not sure.
I love Newhart. That show is the Bob Newhart show is well-deserved reputation, but Newhart is so much funnier. And I always say this to people, you kind of touched on this earlier, where a show goes longer, it gets weird. Any show that goes more than 5 seasons gets weird. Like, it has to happen. And Newhart is the quintessential example. The final 2 seasons of that show are insane. People know the finale, but that whole season's nuts.
Yeah, the finale is a trope, and it's kind of classically talked about, and also it's like a big example of what people talk about what they hate in storytelling, where it's like it was a dream all along. Right. People really hate that type of ending, but also in order for that ending to have happened, like that's got to be a weird fucking show.
Oh yeah,
that it ended revealing that it was like a dream happening within a different show.
Yeah. It's
like that's genius. Strange.
And that whole season, like at one point, Stephanie and Michael's baby becomes the owner of a TV station, like a literal infant. It just gets crazier and crazier. And if you look at the writing staff for that last season of Newhart, it's 90% of the writing staff of Get a Life.
Oh, really?
David Merkin, and everyone except like Bob Odenkirk, basically. And so there's many episodes of that final.
I would have known if Bob Odenkirk wrote on Newhart.
Yeah.
I would have known.
Yeah, but there's many episodes that are basically Get a Life episodes. There's an episode that final season where Bob Newhart and his friends form a gang, like with like a street gang, and they have rumbles with other old men. Like it's such a Get a Life episode. I love that show. It's
I love Newhart, but unfortunately, that's not what was airing. It was the Bob Newhart show.
But she's fine. I've never heard of the movie Flash Fire starring Billy Zane. It's in the middle of the page that I scrolled to. It's a crime drama, but HBO is airing it, and TV Guide gives it 2 stars. Just like their default.
Yeah, they're just like. I mean, you give 2 stars to Billy Zane by default, and then beyond that, you got to earn the rest.
So where are we? Tuesday. What are you doing?
Yeah. So for Tuesday, we're going 8 to 9 Murder, She Wrote again. Like I cannot stress to you enough. I love this show. I've recently rewatched it. I mean, I've not technically I'm in season 6 at this point. I detoured for I got a little burnt out on it in season 6, and I detoured to rewatch Voyager. I did a whole rewatch of Voyager, And then I forget, I did a rewatch of something else. And then recently my wife and I have been rewatching all of Stranger Things for obvious reasons. But yeah, I got to get back to Murder, She Wrote and finish out the last six seasons. Dear God.
I've never been a Star Trek guy, but when I was getting hired for conventions a lot, I would end up running panels with Star Trek people. So I kind of watched it. My wife's a Star Trek fan. So I watched Voyager. But I've told this on the show before, I was backstage at a convention and the little green room they had, and Kate Mulgrew like came in like mid-story, like complaining about something and blah, blah, blah. And she sits down next to me because there was a couple other cast members show talking to them, and she's going in the middle of this story and she just stops, looks at me and goes, "Who are you?"
That would have made my life.
It was great.
That would have made my life.
And I said, "I'm just a guy." And then she goes, "Okay," and then just kept speaking. But my favorite thing I don't know if this is common knowledge, on the final day of filming of Voyager, she took off her uniform, rolled it up, and hid it in her bag and smuggled it out. And they asked her why, and she said, "Because they're just going to sell it to some pervert."
that like they say don't meet your heroes, but like I'm just like, yes, I want to meet her because she sounds exactly the way that I think that she should be.
Have you seen the videos? I think it's AOC in her. Have you seen those videos?
No.
She's a huge, I think it is AOC. She's a huge Voyager fan. And there's people keep surprising her with Kate Mulgrew at events. And they're like, it's very funny. Yeah, I recommend checking this out.
Kate Mulgrew is great. I mean, I love Captain Janeway, but she hasn't done much, recently. She was on Orange is the New Black, which I liked that show okay, but she has a very prolific career as an audiobook narrator.
That makes sense.
And she's narrated a bunch of Joe Hill's books. So if you're a fan of Joe Hill and you've read his books and you want to re-experience them as an audiobook, Kate Mulgrew narrates a lot of his books, like The Fireman and not Horns. What is the other one? Nosferatu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nosferatu, and she does a great job. She's like straight up. I mean, it makes sense because she's a great actor, but she's like one of the best audiobook narrators I've ever heard.
She's Mrs. Columbo. What would you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
So what were you doing again? So you're watching Murder, She Wrote again. Is that what you said on Tuesday?
Yeah, Murder, She Wrote 8 to 9, and then the titular moment, of course, at 9 we're watching the new episode of Frasier.
Yep. This is a litter of puppies. It's an Eddie-centric episode, which I'm always a fan of. Loved Eddie. Loved Maury on on Mad About You. Big fan of dogs and shows. Mm-hmm. Eddie was the
Frasier was actually when I said that I was watching Murder, She Wrote and then I detoured to rewatch Voyager and then I watched something else. It was Frasier. I recently rewatched Frasier all the way through.
Did you watch Cheers?
I didn't rewatch Cheers before this rewatch, but yeah, I've rewatched Cheers multiple times. You can actually tell. I'm sure this happens to you as well, but you can like listen to my podcast and you can tell what shows I'm rewatching because I start talking about them a lot and I start relating all of the stories to the show. And so there was like a block of episodes of my show from like a few months ago or whatever, where every episode I'm like, oh, this is like that episode of Frasier.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'm like, they're like, really? Stranger Things is like Barney Miller? At the moment it is, sure.
That's what I'm doing.
There's also a made-for-TV movie on it this night called The Disappearance of Vonnie with Ann Gillian and friend of the show, Alicia Witt, in it. I've never seen this. It gets 2 stars. This is... that compels Ann Gillian to press for an investigation that turns up unsettling facts about Vonnie's husband, a mercurial charmer with a dark past. A fact-based 1994 TV movie.
There's something obviously I'm not saying anything surprising, but there's just something so romantic to me about this era where you would just like turn on the TV and then just like discover shit.
Yeah. Stuff you'd never
and especially because when you're a kid and it's like when you're an adult it's a little different, but when growing up in this era as a kid, just flipping channels, especially if you had HBO and some of the pay stations or the cable channels, flipping around and just like discovering movies that you would have never in a million years ever watched. And then just like sitting and watching it and being like, wow, I really like that.
Yeah.
Or like, that was really weird, or that was really interesting. Like, that is definitely a lost aspect of culture that nobody understands anymore, because everything is very intentional and algorithmically served. And, you know, there's so much content, and you choose the content you watch because there's not enough time to go out exploring and finding things. You're just like, this is my niche, this is the type of thing I like, and I'm just going to watch that thing. So people don't really fully have an appreciation for the fact that whenever I was, 10 years old, 12 years old or whatever, even younger than that, you were just like swimming in the depths.
Oh, yeah.
And you were just like, oh shit, like, what is this?
You stumble on stuff, and that's how I found some of my favorite things ever. Like that aspect of stuff where right now you can watch anything you want as long as you already know what you like.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird conundrum. And yeah, I've heard about the show before, like that stumbling upon stuff, and then also the investment thing, where meaning people will stick to something, or when we were growing up, because they invested in it. So like you'd rent a movie and it's terrible, but you'd watch the whole thing because you spent $3 or whatever. You're like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, and now it's like 2 minutes in, nope.
Or because it was the only thing on.
Yeah, you're not going to not watch TV.
Yeah, you're on HBO and there's some movie, and it's just like there's nothing on right now, and so I'm just gonna commit to watching this whole
and I've
fucking movie.
I've discovered movies like that I never would have seeked out. Like I remember I saw Freeway at like 2 a.m. on HBO one night, and I'm like, this movie's amazing. Like the weirdest stuff. Or I've told the show a million times, but like The Young Ones is one of my like formative shows, and I just stumbled upon it on MTV one night when I wasn't sleeping, and I saw The Damned playing, and they like became one of my favorite things on earth. So it's if I hadn't just been flipping through, like who knows if I would have discovered that stuff. I have flipped to Wednesday night, and I've seen a disturbing 3/4 page Cosby ad.
Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right.
This is still a safe space, right?
Yes. So have everything on Tuesday? Did you get on there?
Oh yeah, and then after Frasier, 9 to 9:30, and then 9:30 to 10, I chose Grace Under Fire.
Great show.
Which I wasn't a huge fan of Grace Under Fire, but I would watch it in a pinch, and there really just wasn't anything else that was sticking out to me in that last 30 minutes, so I went with Grace Under Fire. Like I said, a show that I enjoyed. I loved a lot of those like working class porn shows. I'm a huge Roseanne fan.
Yep, same.
Which tomorrow we have a Roseanne appearance, but I liked Grace Under Fire as well.
So Wednesday night, as I mentioned, I was first of all, Discovery Channel is showing Beyond 2000, which is a show that I don't talk about enough. I talk about it often on the show, but it was like an Australian magazine show about like inventions and things from the future that I will watch any day, anytime. I rewatch them. They've uploaded them all on YouTube. I love old science shows where they're like, by the year 1997, like these cars will fly. Here's a concept car. Like I will watch those all day, every day.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley, but I never
loved it.
Heard of it.
There was a US version called Beyond Tomorrow that they had on Fox for a while, and they would just re-air basically the Australian segments with American hosts. But the Beyond 2000 show, it ran for like 20 years in Australia on Channel 9. Very interesting show. But right at 8 p.m., it's the Cosby Mysteries, and it's this like smug, weird picture Cosby in a tux, and he's kind of like grinning right at the camera, and it says murder weapon found here, dead body found here, bloodstain found here, solution found here, and it's like pointing to his head, and it just creeped me out. Really creeped me out.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it is creepy knowing everything that we know now, but I got the thing is that I have it on my list.
Yeah.
From 8 to 9, I chose the Cosby Mysteries.
Did you watch it as a kid?
I did. I asked you if this was a safe space.
Yes.
Of course, fuck this guy. Fuck everything about him. It's also
it's still funny.
Yeah, but this is also a well-known thing about me on my show. Thing that I've talked about a lot. When I was a kid, my two heroes were Bill Cosby, and Michael Jackson. So I have not had like a great like 15 years of like finding out shit about people that I really loved. But I was a huge Cosby Show fan. I loved Bill Cosby, and obviously Cosby Mysteries is not the best of his canon of work.
Yeah, but if you're a Murder, She Wrote fan, it's basically Cosby Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, I know. It was but so you see my point here. It was the perfect show, like in concept. It wasn't actually that good of a show.
Right.
But in concept, it was like somebody made a show for me.
That's rough. This is a weird night of TV this Wednesday night because they've thrown a bunch of brand new shows on, sitcoms, and they're really trying to get like, so 94, sort of all these old 80s shows had ended, and they're really trying to get these like TV royalty people back into shows. So for whatever weird reason this night, there's a bunch of these. So speaking of Barney Miller, like Hal Linden and Suzanne Plachette have a show called The Boys Are Back, which looks like they're old people who have like a bunch of kids. I don't know. It looks terrible. It did not go long. There's a Dudley Moore show called Daddy's Girls with Kerry Russell and
oh yeah, Kerry Russell's
Firestein. It's like
is that Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili
Peppers? It does look like Anthony Kiedis, but it's not. It's a guy who was on a ton of shows at this time and looked exactly like Anthony Kiedis and would get cast as Anthony Kiedis like guys. He was on Drexel's Class, I remember. But and then you have Thunder Alley, which is oh my god, why am I forgetting? Lou Grant. Oh my god, why am I forgetting his name? He died last year.
His name too.
Come on, it's someone will tell me. I completely forgot. But it was him and Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, that is. I was going to ask if that was Haley Joel Osment, but I didn't want to be wrong again after my disastrous Anthony Kiedis guess. But I did think that was Haley Joel Osment.
It is, and All American Girl is on, which is Margaret Cho's TV series that like infamously drove her insane. The networks were just horrible to her. But that
there's like a documentary about that, right? Or like a documentary about Margaret Cho where she talks a lot about it.
Yeah.
I've seen. I haven't watched it, but I've seen a bunch of clips from it.
It's a fascinating example of just how awful the network, especially at that time, were to women, and yeah, it's nuts. But that's on that night as well. So just
it was like a movie about, or a show about her life, and then they wanted to like recast her with a white person, right? Like that was the thing.
She wanted to lose weight, and like she's Korean.
Oh, a thinner person. That's what it was. I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Just ridiculous. Awfulness. But so all those shows are on that night. Like this is sort of setting the scene for Wednesday, as well as Rescue 911, which is the shark attack special.
Yeah, it wasn't an amazing night of TV, but yeah, I did go. I mean, I could have went Murder She Wrote, but I'm trying to shake things up a little bit. So I went with the Cosby Mysteries, and
try new things.
I just have to say, we're role playing as if this is me as a 10-year-old or whatever age I was at the time.
Sure.
Not now. No
one's going to blame.
And then from 8:30 or from 8 to 8:30, Roseanne. Loved Roseanne. Huge Roseanne fan.
Yep. Still,
I've never watched the new reboot or the Connors. I haven't watched it yet, but it's definitely, Roseanne is at least in my top 10, if not top 5. I've never really sat down and like really ranked them, but I loved Roseanne growing up.
It still holds up. In the new show, it feels like a continuation of the old show. It's funny. It's way more of a drama.
Yeah, well, as every like legacy reboot of anything is. I was talking about that the other day with somebody, how like they I mean, I take your word for it that it's good, but a big problem with a lot of the like legacy reboots of things recently is that they add in this like layer of gravitas that the original just never had. Like all of the Ghostbusters movies, like Ghostbuster Afterlife and Ghostbuster Frozen Empire, they have this aspect of like, this is a legacy, the Spengler family's legacy or whatever. And it's like Ghostbusters was like a zany comedy. Like it was not this.
It's because they're they try to incorporate the cult audience's feelings for the thing with the thing itself, and it's like you don't have to do like it's a very weird thing, where they're like, this is important to people, and it's like, but that's sort of outside of the story. Like, you're making that somehow canon. With
I
the
didn't
story is
need
weird.
like the Spangler family to be canonized as some like legacy of ghost hunting or whatever the hell. Just like make a fun Ghostbusters movie, or don't do it.
Yeah,
or don't do it.
Well,
or stop.
Well, they tried to make a fun Ghostbusters movie, and everyone freaked out because they're all women.
Which I enjoy that movie a lot more than the
it was
the
a
Finn
big, dumb,
Wolfhard
fun movie.
ones.
Like, that's what you want, right? Yeah. I don't want like crying and ghosts of like, oh, it's fun.
Here's a creepy CGI version of Harold Ramis.
A dead person. That's very weird. But I would recommend. I think you would like it.
And then for the last half, there just really wasn't anything else on that really struck my interest. So I just put like, watch the last half of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues.
Fair enough. You're continuing the legend. Silk Stockings was on. You could have watched the last half of that.
Oh, I didn't see Silk Stockings. I would have chosen Silk Stockings if I saw it. I must have overlooked that.
It's Chris struggles to recover from a shooting while Rita searches for a serial killer who preys on wealthy women at resorts.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll say that then, because honestly I did not see that. Let me scan this again, because
I don't remember. So Dream On is on that night at 10, and I loved Dream On. And this is the final season when the show got kind of popular, and they were able to get like pretty big guest stars, like David Bowie guest starred on it and all this stuff. And it was created by the people who went on to create Friends. So this is like their transition from Dream On into Friends. But this episode is it's the final episode of the show, and it's Martin is at wit's end. He must outwit the nitwit kidnappers, played by Scott Bakula and Jamie Gertz, and save little Richard himself. So he did like a Ruthless People kind of thing, but with Scott Bakula and Jamie Gertz,
which sounds amazing.
Yeah, very.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, on USA, Silk Stockings. I don't know why I didn't see that.
Well, there's a lot going on. The Cosby Mysteries really sent you for a loop.
Followed by an hour block of Wings, which
I do. I like Wings.
I like Wings. I like Wings. I love Wings. But I actually just started rewatching Wings, and that show holds up less to me than some of my other rewatches. So it didn't quite make it onto my list.
It's very 90s. It's very funny, but yeah, it doesn't quite have the depth of some of the other sitcoms that hold up, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, and I mostly enjoy the performances, some of the characters and stuff like that. But I watched like the first 4 episodes of the show, and I'm gonna keep watching it, and I'm sure it gets better. But just in my really rewatching the first 4 episodes, I was like, this is a little more stale than I remember it being.
I will say Roy Biggins is still one of the best television characters of all time, who doesn't get enough credit for being ahead of his time as an unlikable creep on a major sitcom as a major character, because that didn't come around till post Seinfeld, where they were like, we can have this. Like, he's an unredeemed asshole who's a creep and a bad person. But he's the main character on the show, and he's played so great. Like, what a creep. I mean, he looks like Richard Salva. Is it Richard Salva? Victor Salva. He looks like Victor Salva, who is an actual creep. But yeah, Roy Biggins needs more credit on Wings. Thursday, what are you doing?
Thursday, what did I have here? This was a bit of a light day as well. So from 8 to 8:30, Mad About You, love Paul Reiser.
Holds up. That's a 90s show I think holds up. And I've said this in the show before. I think Mad About You, News Radio, and Spin City hold up better to me than Seinfeld does.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I love all those shows. I've never thought about it like that, but I love those 3 shows. But I love Mad About You, love Paul Reiser. Trying to get my wife to watch Mad About You, because she's not she's not really big into like watching movies or TV shows, and there's like a handful of shows that we do enjoy together, and they're kind of like basic shows, like the type of things she watches. Like she likes to watch The Office and things like that.
Sure.
And I've tried to get her to watch some other things as well, and I've gotten her to get into certain things. And I feel like she would like Mad About You, so I'm trying to get her to watch it. But
Go
yeah,
the Stranger Things route.
Give me like, you know, the guy from that.
Yeah. But it's a great character show, and that's like why it holds up to me too, because like it's dialogue and character, and most of the comedy isn't around the plots, which is for Seinfeld, that's like the shock of the plot. Like that's tends to be what's funny, but like these just hold up. And oddly, plot wise, this week it's a puppy heavy week, because like on Frasier earlier, Mad About You this week is about Murray having puppies.
Oh yeah, so it would just be all. I'd just be going puppy crazy this week, and I didn't even know that. I didn't look into the synopses for the episodes. I just kind of chose them based on trying to. I was more approaching like what are the episodes that I would be most interested in watching. I was approaching it from like trying to strategize my evening of like how do I make this the most like bang for your buck 2 hours
appropriate. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Good pick.
And then from 8:30 to 9, Living Single.
Love it. The better friends.
I was going to say the proto friends, what many people believe they kind of stole the premise of to make Friends. And then from 9 to 9:30, Seinfeld, of course. Seinfeld was on tonight. And then we kind of cleared this up earlier, but I put like Bob Newhart show, whatever it was, 9:30 to 10. But it was the Bob Newhart show, I guess, based on
when
what you
in
said.
doubt, we always had Nick at Night.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why I chose that, and that's why I chose it for some of the other ones, because even if like the show itself wasn't something I was super into, Nick at Night was always just like the last ditch effort of like once everything's gone and there's nothing else interesting on, the TV went to Nick at Night for the rest of the night until I went to sleep, basically.
100%. It was a home channel. Like MTV was during the day. Like if there's nothing on, I'd go over to MTV or Nickelodeon. Yeah. But Nick at Night was the nighttime version of that. I'm watching My So-Called Life. Obviously, it was on Thursday night, which is one of the reasons why it didn't do well, because it was up against like 90210 and the must-see TV stuff. But yeah, that's a damn good episode. And what is this show? Head Over Heels and Heaven Help Us? I've never heard of those. Yeah, you get Seinfeld, and at 9:30 is Bob Newhart show. Chicago Hope had just started, and ER, so you still have that rivalry, the Hydrox and Oreo of of hospital shows. I was a big ER fan. ER again is a show that I put in the category of excellent show. Was so happy I watched it. Never want to see it again. Absolutely depressing.
Very stressful show.
Never want to see it again. Final night of the week, Friday night. What are you doing?
Final night of the week. I mean, obviously, there's a version of this where it's just like watching TGIF, because obviously TGIF is the block that's on this night. So for the first 30 minutes, I chose Family Matters from TGIF. I loved Family Matters. One of my top 10, if not top 5 favorite sitcoms. Love Family Matters. I could have just sat and watched all of TGIF for the whole evening. After Family Matters was Boy Meets World, which I like Boy Meets World. But I wasn't in love with it. And so I chose from 8:30 to 9. And mostly I just wanted to do this just to cap off this discussion, considering what I talked about before. But I chose to watch the last half of Murder, She Wrote. Fair enough. You gotta I chose the last half of Murder, She Wrote over Boy Meets World for this 30-minute block.
Family Matters that night is a Stefan Urkel episode. This Boy Meets World one is pretty light. I will say it's before the purview, but there's an ad in here for a thing on TBS at 7:35, and it's called TV Violence: Parents Under the Gun, hosted by Felicia Rashad, and it's this horrifying photo of like this kid screaming, and then in quotes it says, "I saw somebody dead. It made me feel very, very sad." And it says, for parents who have more questions than answers, some ideas on how to deal with TV violence, hosted by Felicia Richard. I would love to watch this now. This would be fascinating.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll to this. It's taking forever
It's
for my thing to
237 on
load.
the PDF. I saw
Here we go,
somebody
I got
dead. It made me feel very, very sad.
Yeah, this is like the font of the title is like really kind of like jarring, and it's jagged, and it's like TV violence.
Yeah,
This is the scaremongering version of the discussion we were having earlier about the way that they marketed content to people, of like trying to just grab you and keep you on the channel by just ratcheting up the sadness or the drama of it. This is like that, but for like propaganda of
My
just
kid's
like
gonna
it's
be very, very
yeah,
sad.
Yeah, designed to be the most shocking. Like, if you don't watch this, your child is going to be traumatized forever. You need to see this in order to know how to stop your children from. Yeah,
she wouldn't do you wrong.
Yeah, America's favorite TV mom is going to show you how to keep your children from fucking dying.
They're gonna be sad. They're dead people. Then would you do it 9? Oh,
9 to 10.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, 8:30 to 9. Last half Murder, She Wrote. 9 to 10. X-Files.
This is a great episode too. This is a small town is rocked by a series of sudden violent killing spree by individual residents who are killed by police when they refuse to halt their actions. This is guest starring William Sanderson, speaking of Newhart, and 80s and 90s adult film star Ashlyn Gear. This is one of her rare attempts at a mainstream role, the other being Dave Dakota's Creepazoids. Which is she's actually really good in this episode and is like a good actress, and everyone at this time, it was like Entertainment Tonight did a story about it, how she's becoming a mainstream actress and all this stuff, and then it just never had, like, for whatever reason, she never got cast in anything mainstream again. But there was a ton of talk
because
about
the taboo of it, going back to Growing Pains, the fact that the actress was kicked off the show because she posed for Playboy. There was a lot of stigma around that, and at the time, and even today, it still exists, but it's a little less. But the stigma about, like, if you do porn, like, because of being regarded as like not a real actor, and also because of the social taboo of it, the transition from adult film to mainstream acting is very difficult. And nowadays, I mean, like I said, it still exists, but now it's like, there are fucking mainstream actors who are doing OnlyFans and stuff like that. Like, people care less, but there's, there's still a stigma around it.
There's several that are Donna D'Errico, Carmen Electra, they all have those things. But it's funny that she's like in the guest cast, she's listed among the 2 people in the guest cast, William Sanderson and her. And oddly, I don't think, here's the weird thing. I don't think she's credited in this episode by her adult film name. I'm pretty sure she goes by her actual name, which she does in Creepazoids, but TV Guide has her
TV Guide knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it's just real weird.
Like we said before, they weren't afraid to pull punches, or they didn't have to pull punches.
They're like, why you're
it.
here.
Yeah.
You know why you're watching this.
What's going on.
But that is a great episode of X-Files. Like, that's a particularly good episode of X-Files. And Hanging with Mr. Cooper, underrated show.
I love Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Great show. Oddly a spinoff of Growing Pains retroactively. If you recall, they had him come in and rent the Seavers house.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
And then Picket Fences is on, another show that was amazing and no one really talks about now, and I don't think people watch, and I don't think is streaming, but is a great show.
Yeah, I'm on this this ad for it, and I've seen a little bit of Picket Fences. I remember it as being good. I've seen clips of Picket Fences on TikTok.
Oh, weird.
Oddly enough, because sometimes you're scrolling on TikTok and then they'll just be like 5-part video that's just literally just clips from some old show.
Right.
And I've seen clips of Picket Fences on TikTok. So someone out there is beating the drum.
You know what? And that is the weekend. I'll read the cheers and jeers to wind up in a moment here, and we'll finish up. But I do want to mention a weird thing happens on TikTok and Instagram that drives me insane, and it's, you'll get, and people always send me stuff, like if it's like an 80s TV show or something, I get, they're like, have you seen this? And what often happens, and I don't know if this is intentional or people just don't know or don't bother to look it up, they'll share like a commercial parody from like Kentucky Fried Movie or the Boob Tube or something like that. And they'll be like, can you believe this was a real ad in the 70s? And I'll have to be like, guys, that's not a real ad from the 70s. That's from a movie.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. I've seen a lot of different versions of that, and it also annoys me. I've seen that, and I've also, one of the other ones that I also see frequently is in like 2015, I think it was Mike Diva, he was a YouTuber. He made like viral videos, and now he actually works as a video editor for SNL. But in the 2010s, he was like a big YouTube guy. And I think it was him. But in 2015, they made this parody of 90s commercials that had like that extreme aesthetic, like late 90s, the like extreme aesthetic of late 90s stuff. And there's like this parody commercial of like a Capri Sun type thing where the kids get turned into, they drink the Capri Sun and then they get turned into giant anthropomorphic fruits. And there was a commercial like that in the late 90s, and so in this version of it, they like get turned into these like weird like proto CGI metallic puddles, and then and then they go and they zoom out to this park, and then they reform, but they like reform in the wrong way, and so they're like they get like combined together into this like body horror monster. And it turns into like a horror movie where the monster starts killing people, and it was like a parody of these commercials from the late 90s, and that gets shared on TikTok a lot as like the commercials in the 90s were insane or whatever, and it's like, this is not from the 90s. This was like a parody of that was made like 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Banned cartoon, it only aired once. I'm like, guys, this is TV Funhouse. This is a fake thing from TV Funhouse.
Yeah. The other one that really annoys me is that, and I see this one really annoys me, and I see it shared constantly, is people will take clips from Ren and Stimpy's adult party cartoon, which was an adult X-rated version of Ren and Stimpy that was aired on Spike TV, and there was 3 episodes of it before it got canceled. But the creator of Ren and Stimpy, John Cristoforetti, which as a side note, he got outed as sort of like a child groomer later on. So not a great guy that we're talking about, but he was fired from Ren and Stimpy because he constantly was pushing the boundaries of the level of violence and like adult humor in it. And later on, he was given the ability to like regain the license and make a new show, and so he made adult party cartoon, and it was aired on Spike TV, and it was like an 18 plus adult version of the show, and people frequently take clips from that show, and they're like, can you believe that kids were watching this in the 90s? And it's like, no, kids were not watching this in the 90s. Ren and Stimpy, while it did push boundaries, it was a kid's show. It didn't have shit like this. This was like a different thing that was made for adults, and nobody watched it, and it had 3 episodes.
Yeah. And a side note, Billy West is a friend who's been on the show several times. And he has told me that Curse Ferlucci, I can never say his name, has kind of retroactively martyred himself, being like, they fired me because I was too extreme. But Billy says just because he didn't get his work done on time.
Yeah, that was
he and not get
frequently over budget, frequently delayed, and all this stuff like that. And also, he just seems like he's aside from the child grooming stuff, he just seems like an asshole.
Yeah.
There's a really uncomfortable clip of Billy West and John Kay on the Howard Stern show, which like, this is a total dick move by Howard Stern, but Billy West is on the show and he's being interviewed, and this was after John Cristoforetti was fired. And basically what happened was Billy West was the voice of Stimpy and John Cristoforetti was the voice of Ren. And then whenever John Kay got fired, Billy West a bunch of people from the show quit in solidarity with John Kay, and a whole new animation team came in, and it was completely taken over by like a new production. But Billy West was offered like, hey, you stay on as Stimpy and you voice Ren too.
Which he could do.
Yeah, and so he became the voice of Ren and Stimpy from that point on. And so Billy West is on this show, and then as this like surprise like ambush, he's like, John Cristoforetti is here, and he brings in John Kay, and then it's like this really awkward thing where he's like, hey Billy, how does it feel to like betray your friend? and he's interviewing John Kay, being like, how did it feel to get fired and to have your friend like take over your job or whatever? And John Cristofalusi's like, yeah, I was really pissed off about it or whatever. And they're just like fucking. He's just like, he set up a situation for John Cristofalusi to come in and just like roast Billy West right in front of his face. And it's so hard to watch. It's like a tough watch.
Because Billy was on the Stern Show forever. Before that,
yeah, doing a bunch of voices. He did like Richard Nixon and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, because when I've talked to Billy about that, he said, all these people would have been out of work. Was kind of the way he looked at it. He was like, if I didn't do both voices, like there would have been like 100 people who didn't have a job anymore. And I'm like, just because John Kay is an asshole, basically. And I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm like, fair.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Billy West was definitely on the right side of history on that. I don't think of it as a portrayal.
But I do remember it was presented that way at the time.
Yeah. And that's definitely that was the concept of this like ambush that Howard Stern
I wonder if
did.
he pissed off Stern when he left the show or something, and he was trying to like stick it to him. But you know what? I'll ask him.
Please do, because I watch that clip a lot, and I'm always just like, man, like they just railroaded him. Like this is so uncomfortable. Like Billy West, he just like does not know what to say. He's just kind of like nervously grinning, and it's like really
nice
hard.
Guy. Yeah,
really hard to watch.
Yeah. I will ask him. Well, as you know, this is the week, and TV Guide is not just informative. It has opinions, and it cheers and jeers. So to wrap up here, I'll read you the cheers and jeers of this week in 1994, September. See if you agree or disagree. I always love the cheers and jeers because they are unsigned, so they often get super bitchy and weird, and it's always the best way to end the week. So we have a jeer-heavy week.
Anonymous internet commenter of the 90s.
Internet comments. And I've never been able to find out if it was one person or several or who wrote cheers and jeers. But there's 3 jeers and 2 cheers. So we start with a cheers. Though faintly, it says, to a trend we've been fighting for so long we're finally giving in. Movies based on TV series. Seems every day we hear of a new movie being made by some channel surfing mogul who happened onto some old show in rerun land. Recently announced big screen versions of Father Knows Best written by lonesome dub scribe Larry McMurdy. That didn't happen. And Lost in Space. 2 oldies that join the Brady Bunch, Mission Impossible, and Sergeant Bilko on the retread treadmill. All right already, we get the picture. When even so-so treatments of TV treasures can attract more than $100 million in ticket sales, as the Flintstones did this summer, we might as well just admit the irreversibility of this tube-to-theater momentum. But what next? My Mother the Car, the motion picture? I don't agree. Like the Brady Bunch movies are brilliant. They manage to be a tribute and a parody at the same time, and they're fantastic. Flintstones, not so much.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, that I'm of 2 minds of it, because like in this time period, particularly because like things were a lot more experimental, or there was just less of a sort of like corporate sheen to everything.
Sure.
So these adaptations of old TV shows could often be just like very strange and interesting. Yeah. And like the Brady Bunch movies, Brady Bunch and a Very Brady Family. Is that what it's called? Is that the second one?
Brady sequel.
A Very Brady sequel. That's what it is. Those are great. Like I love those movies. I even like the Flintstones movie a lot more than you seem to. It's just the idea of it. The idea that they just recreated the Flintstones in live action. Like it's easy to take it. It's easy to take that for granted now, because that's just what everything is now. Everything is just like adapting old IP or whatever. But at the time, that was like a strange thing to do.
It was very weird. Yeah.
Like a accurate to the source material live action adaptation of the Flintstones. Like that's and it's not really for kids. Like it kind of is, but like it's just kind of a movie. It's just like and like Halle Berry is playing a character named Sharon Stone, which they originally wanted to get Sharon Stone to play, but then she turned it down. So they just got a different actor to play Sharon Stone.
Going for the Anne Margrock kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which
like that's
Burbank tip, which you probably already know this, but one of my favorite stores on Magnolia is It's a Wrap. Don't know.
Oh
if you
yeah,
got it.
yeah. The production
It's essentially a thrift store.
production
for
prop
production
thrift
stuff.
store.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there and you buy clothes that were worn by productions.
For thrift store prices. You get like when I would go to LA, I would not pack clothes. I'd go to It's a Wrap and spend like $40 and have a wardrobe for the week. But they have several screen used Flintstones the movie props hanging from the ceiling in there.
Yeah, they do. And they have a whole costume loft.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's a bunch of like, and they it's pretty popular during Halloween. You can go in there and you can buy a Halloween costume, but these aren't just Halloween costumes.
No.
These are costumes from the set of shows. So it's like, remember that episode of Hannah Montana where somebody dressed like a monkey? Here's the monkey costume.
Yeah. But they have some not for sale display stuff, and there's an unusual amount of stuff from Flintstones movie and Baywatch.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I would highly recommend checking it out. I mean, I live by like, I mean, over the years, it gets kind of worse and worse as like they price out people with the rent and they get replaced with shitty, crumble cookies or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, like Creature Features was gone and Dark Delicacies.
Yeah, Creature Features. I loved Creature Features. It's totally gone now. It's totally sad. But aside from the slow, I don't want to say gentrification because it was still just white people.
Sure.
but a form of gentrification. I live on like Kitsch Road, but Magnolia Park here by my house is like, it's just like the kitschy part of LA.
Yeah.
And it's just got a bunch of weird little shops with a bunch of little kitschy ephemera from the golden age of Hollywood. And it's an amazing place that's unfortunately slowly getting like replaced by assembly pizza shops.
I think is it closed, but is that store previously on still there?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's like It's a Wrap, but not for clothes, but for props from stuff.
Yeah, It's
but
a Wrap.
thrift store. And my favorite thing going in there was they always would have like framed family photos of fake families from stuff because they would need to make those for shows. So it's like John Leguizamo and some family, like a picture that they had over their fireplace in the movie. You just buy it for like $5.
Yeah, when I first moved to LA, I had stumbled across Magnolia Park. And we were just walking around, and we went into It's a Wrap. And I regret this to this day, but when the first time I ever went to It's a Wrap, they had full-sized like mascot costumes of the characters from that show from the 90s, Bump in the Night, that stop motion claymation show about like the boogeyman and like characters that come out at night whenever you go to bed or whatever. And I can only imagine that these must have been like for some promotional event that happened where they did a promo event and they had these characters walking around like saying hello to kids or whatever. But they just had full, really high quality mascot costumes of the main character, Mr. Bumpy, and then the blue guy. I don't remember his name. And I didn't buy them.
And they were probably like $30.
Yeah, and I should have bought them. To this day, I'm just like, I should have bought those costumes.
They'll find you eventually.
They will. They'll make it to me somehow.
Yeah. Then we get a Jeers. Jeer, even though that sounded like a jeer, that cheer. But anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was a cheer?
They would do that.
That
often.
It was a cheer, but the whole thing was just like, fuck this.
Yeah,
trend.
They would do that often. Like the editor was like, guys, it's five jeers. You got to do a cheer, and they'd be like, fine. Cheers to a group called Viewers Against the Nanny. Oh, come on, the nanny? Sure, Fran Drescher's Queen's Bray makes the screech of a subway train sound lyrical, but what's to hate? Why have a bunch of Drescher dissers organize themselves against what they wrongly call, quote, the most unwelcome house guest since Charles Manson? On a recent CBS This Morning, Drescher told Paula Zahn that she has rejected suggestions in the past that she dump her adenoidal accent and go more middle America. With every nasal twang, the nanny reminds us that she's Queens born and proud of it. Bray on, Fran. Where would ya all away? What?
I mean, I kind of already foreshadowed my reation to this, but like, once again, a very strange cheer because it's like, I'm caught between being like, yeah, that I love that, to like also being like angry at that person because he's saying like, yeah, it's great, the show is amazing, and it's great that she's like wearing her hometown on her sleeve or whatever, but he's also like using very like pejorative language to describe it.
Yeah, it
and I'm
reminds
just
me-
like, fuck you, dude. You don't insult the queen.
Viewers Against the Nanny, or Van. I had a joke like this I used to do on stage, but Boston has a weird thing where it's like people will insultingly defend people, and you don't. It's very confusing. Like, be like, hey, leave that queer alone. Who cares if what he does is disgusting? He's a good guy. Like, you'll be like, well, I don't understand if you're pro. Like, it's a very weird, and it comes across that way. Like,
yeah, that's how that came across. Because like I said before, I had a huge crush on Fran Drescher when I was a kid from The Nanny, and she was in Jack, and she was I forget that movie she was in where she like becomes a princess of some like European country or whatever. Yep. But like, this is part of the reason why my co-host thought it was so funny. But like the reason why it was so funny to him is because the voice is part of it to me.
Sure. Yeah.
That's
her whole
it's not like she's hot. It's not like Dr. Girlfriend from Venture Brothers. It's not like she's hot, but like that voice though. Like, no, that was part of it to me.
That's a bonus. Yeah, fair enough. I don't think you're alone. Jeers to King World for its Ted Turner-like plans to colorize the 71 episodes of The Little Rascals in syndication. Do these guys have no sense of irony? Colorizing the immortal black character Buckwheat reminds us of the wonderful sketch on In Living Color called Very Colorized Classics, in which Casablanca was remade with a blind pianist being told, "Yo, Stevie, play it again." Some things really are right and as simple as black and white. First of all, that In Living Color sketch they just described is nothing like colorizing the Little Rascals.
Yeah, that was a strange point of reference. That was a strange description of that. But other than that, I agree. Like, I really hate the idea of colorizing old movies. Like black and white is king. It's
don't change the movie. Like, that's weird. But also their point here, I'm like, colorizing the immortal black character Buckwheat. Like, what do they think they're gonna do to Buckwheat? Like, they'll make him black.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense what he's saying. It's like he just wanted to make like a joke about him being black or something like that. I don't know what he was going for.
We made him purple. Like, what do you think colorization is?
But yeah, he would be. I mean, unless they're just totally insane, they would probably try to make him black.
Yeah,
but I broadly agree that I really hate colorizing old black and white movies.
I agree with the principle, but not the detail here, which seems completely wrong.
Which is very strange.
Not finally, cheers. This is our final cheer. To Two Good Samaritans, MTV for paying some medical and hospital expenses of uninsured Real World cast member Pedro Zamora, who is HIV positive, and Katie Couric, who has offered to help find a job for the widow of Theron Montgomery, the NBC stagehand slain last month by a deranged man outside the Today Show studio in New York City. I don't remember that at all.
No, that's insane.
Some stagehand got murdered outside the Today Show. I'm gonna have to look that up. There's an episode for you, show.
Yeah, I was there in October when I was in New York City. We walked. I mean,
oh man, you could have been
walked
murdered.
by that area. I didn't see the chalk outline or anything.
I do love that the MTV, and they should have paid Pedro Zamora's bills. Judd Winnick has become a good buddy, and I've had Judd on the show a bunch, and just the way. The more I learned about the Pedro Zamora thing and that Real World thing, the more amazing it is and how like world changing it was.
Yeah, it was like I saw that season. It was like that guy Puck like stuck his finger into his peanut butter and was like trying to like do it as a joke or whatever. And he's like, no, you could fucking kill me.
It also Puck, like they cut a bunch out of him calling him the F word and just being a fucking dickhead. Like, what a dick. And the stuff that Zamora went through to be on that show specifically because he wanted to introduce people to someone with HIV who was like a normal person who you care, and the work he did was just like unbelievable. Like, and the fact that Judd and Pam like picked up the baton when he died and did like traveled the country talking to school. Like, it's just unbelievable. They're also two of the best people on earth, by the way. Like, just awesome. And then finally, jeers. Without even reading past the first line, I agree with this, but jeers to Rush Limbaugh for demanding an apology from She TV for lampooning him. The skit that riled him up spoofed his viewers as mellowed by his recent marriage. Quote, I still hate the Clintons and black people. It's nasty, all right, but not much nastier than the conservative host's public speculation on far more vicious rumors about the president and first lady. Satire is traditionally protected, so rush with your self-proclaimed sense of humor. Whatever happened to fighting satire with satire? Rush Limbaugh was a piece of shit. I totally forgot about She TV. And this should be a cheers for She TV for making fun of Rush Limbaugh. Like, making it a jeer almost makes him seem cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also just goes to show, like, you know, everyone's like, oh, cancel culture, and, you know, you're not allowed to make any kind of jokes anymore. And it's like, that's what you guys were doing back then. Like,
yeah.
Rush Limbaugh was like, how dare you make fun of me?
Which,
you must apologize.
If you recall when he was making fun of Michael J. Fox, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my
I've seen
God.
I've seen the video clips of that, of him, like, doing, you know, trimmering and making fun of him.
What an awful human. Like, the world was in no way made better by his existence of that. Like, it was the morning radio shock jock mentality somehow trying to elevate, like, but I'm you know, intellectual. I was like, no, you just
opposite of RIP. Whatever. Just be awake in chaos,
burning in hell. Which, side note, the whole story of how his show became popular is fascinating in that he would give it away for free to stations. And then he would sell some of the ad time on it. So it got on all these stations because it was free, but he'd be like, we're on all these networks. It's like, you literally gave it away for free. Like, that's how you, it's just bizarre. But anyway, rotten hell, Rush Limbaugh. Well, that is the week. Andrew, thank you so much for doing the show. As I said, I've really loved all the stuff I've watched of yours, and I think it's right up the alley of everyone that listens to this show. So I will put links to all that stuff because they will love all there's a lot of crossover here.
Yeah, super fun. I like I said, I wasn't really, reading TV Guide wasn't like a big part of my life, really. My grandparents had TV Guide, but I just never, wasn't a thing I cracked open and like looked in or whatever. But so it was really fun looking through this. It also made me realize that this would have helped me immensely watching TV in the 90s. Yeah, like I said, I'm teetering on the edge of just buying out the entire stock of TV guides at Blast from the Past, which apparently are just your TV guides.
Just mine. Yeah, if you need me to talk to your wife, I will. And you know, I think you can make up.
Yeah, you can explain it to her. You'd be like,
okay,
he's got to do this.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah. But yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, I mean, you can follow me. I have a podcast. It's called Deep Cuts. Deep Cuts Podcast. If you search it on any podcast platform, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's also on YouTube. We have a video version as well as just a audio only version. And we do deep dive explainers on like strange and fascinating stories from pop culture and history. So we have that episode about Andrew WK. We recently did a 2-hour episode about the Satanic Panic. And we had author Jason Parjan on as a guest. He wrote the John Dies at the End series, and we just kind of like went through the entire phenomenon, the cultural phenomenon of the Satanic Panic. So we just do strange and interesting stories from history, usually centering around pop culture. You can also follow me. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and it's my personal thing is Treehouse Detective. So search Treehouse Detective on any podcast platform. I do like short form, interesting historical and pop culture facts videos. And I also do like long form YouTube videos. I just recently put out a video 2 days ago, actually, which is a deep dive into the Velocity Gnome saga from the early 2000s, where basically these two guys put on a 3-year-long ARG for a random stranger, where they created an entire storyline about how he was the savior of the universe in the future, and he had to travel across the country. He like got onto planes and flew to other states, and he like went around solving clues and fighting bad guys, and it all culminated in a live rock opera that he was the star of. So like they led him to this theater and they pushed him into the back, and then he walked out on stage, and then there was just a rock opera happening, and he was the star of it, and he had to like stumble his way through it, and they were like prompting him to say things, and It was like one of the coolest like immersive theater things that's ever happened. I did a 50-minute deep dive into it. That's my most recent video.
That's what rich people should be doing with their money.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Things like that.
Yeah, the world would be a better place if they were spending their money on immersive ARGs for one specific guy, as opposed to like destroying the world with data centers.
Yeah.
But yeah, Deep Cuts podcast or my stuff on social media. I got a lot of cool videos and podcasts that I think you'd be interested in if you like this show.
I agree.
It's very as you've seen from this last 2 hours of discussion, a lot of crossover in interests.
There you go. The boy genius himself, Andrew Price. I put Treehouse Detective links in the show description. Let me know if they don't show up. I'm having some issues with that. Or you just Google it. He gives you all the things you need to know. And if there's anything else you need to know between now and then, we'll talk about it next week on a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
I asked you if this was a safe space.